The day my daughter Vera outperformed an entire Navy SEAL unit, I watched a colonel's jaw drop so hard I thought it might hit the ground. But what happened next changed everything we thought we knew about strength. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's episode is truly mind-blowing. Let's get started. I'm talking about my daughter Vera Chen, and before you picture some 6-foot Amazon warrior, let me paint you the real picture. Vera stands exactly 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs maybe 125 pounds on a good day, and spent most of her 20s working as a librarian in Columbus, Ohio. She's the kind of person who gets genuinely excited about organizing book collections and can tell you the publication date of obscure military history texts from memory. When Vera was growing up, she wasn't the kid scoring touchdowns or dominating basketball courts. She was the one reading Sun Tzu's The Art of War during lunch breaks and practicing knots she learned from YouTube videos in our garage. While her classmates were at parties, she was doing pull-ups on the bar I installed for her when she turned 16. My wife Diane used to watch her through the kitchen window, shaking her head with that mixture of pride and worry only mothers can master. "That girl's going to burn herself out," Diane would tell me over dinner, as we listened to the rhythmic sound of Vera's workout routine echoing from the garage. "She's too intense for her own good." But I saw something different in Vera. She had this quiet fire that reminded me of my grandmother Opal, a woman who survived the Great Depression not through luck or help, but through sheer determination and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. Vera had inherited that same steel core wrapped in a deceptively gentle exterior. The thing about Vera is that she never made a big show of her capabilities. She didn't brag about being able to do more pull-ups than most guys twice her size, or about the fact that she could navigate using a compass and map faster than anyone I'd ever met. She just quietly went about becoming extraordinary while everyone else was busy being ordinary. After college, when she announced her intention to join the military, the family reactions ranged from supportive to downright skeptical. My brother Knox, who weighs about 220 pounds and considers himself pretty tough, took one look at Vera during a family barbecue and said, "She's going up against guys who are monsters. Have you seen what Navy SEALs look like? They're like walking refrigerators." Vera just smiled that calm smile of hers and said, "Uncle Knox, you might be surprised what determination can accomplish when it's properly applied." What none of us understood at the time was that Vera had been preparing for something like this her entire life. Every book she'd read about military strategy, every hour spent conditioning her body, every weekend rock climbing trip that built her grip, strength, and problem-solving skills under pressure. It was all leading to a moment none of us saw coming. She'd applied for something called a Classified Military Assessment Program. The details were vague, but we knew it was incredibly selective. She couldn't tell us much about it, just that it would involve physical and mental challenges designed to identify exceptional candidates for elite military positions. The acceptance rate was less than 2%, and most applicants were already serving in special operations units. The night before she left for the assessment, Vera was quieter than usual. She sat on our back porch, staring up at the stars with an expression I'd never seen before. There was determination there, but also something that looked almost like anticipation. "What's going through your mind, kiddo?" I asked, settling into the chair beside her. "I keep thinking about something you told me when I was 12, she said. "Remember when I wanted to quit piano lessons because the other kids said I'd never be good enough for the recital?" I remembered. Vera had come home in tears, convinced she wasn't talented enough to perform with the other students. "You told me that talent is just the starting point," she continued. "You said what really matters is what you do with whatever abilities you have. You said some people waste exceptional gifts, while others transform ordinary abilities into something extraordinary through pure effort and intelligence." She turned to look at me, and in her eyes I saw that same fire I'd been watching grow stronger for years. "Dad, tomorrow I find out what category I fall into." As she headed inside that night, I had no idea I was about to witness my quiet librarian daughter rewrite the rules about what's possible when someone refuses to accept limitations. I had no idea that within 48 hours, military professionals with decades of experience would be questioning everything they thought they knew about strength, strategy, and what it means to be elite. All I knew was that Vera had been building toward something her entire life, and tomorrow, the world was about to find out what that something was. Vera had always been different. but it took years for us to understand just how different. While other kids were glued to their phones or gaming systems, she was in our backyard at 6 in the morning, running obstacle courses she'd designed herself using lawn chairs, rope, and anything else she could find. My wife Diane would watch from the kitchen window, coffee mug in hand, shaking her head with that expression parents get when they love their child, but don't quite understand them. "She's going to hurt herself with all this crazy training," Diane would say. But I could hear the pride underneath her worry. The truth was, Vera approached everything like a military campaign. When she decided she wanted to learn rock climbing at 15, she didn't just sign up for a class. She spent 3 months studying technique videos, reading books about safety protocols, and practicing knots until she could tie them blindfolded. When she finally stepped into that climbing gym, the instructors were amazed at how quickly she progressed. "It's like she already knew what to do," the head instructor told me. "Most people take months to develop that kind of spatial awareness and problem-solving ability. Vera had it on day 1. But it wasn't just physical challenges that drew her. Vera devoured military history like other kids consumed social media. She could tell you about famous battles, tactical innovations, and leadership strategies from conflicts most adults had never heard of. Her bedroom walls were covered with maps from different historical campaigns, each one marked with notes in her careful handwriting. My brother Knox thought she was obsessed. "It's not normal for a teenage girl to spend her Saturday nights reading about World War II logistics," he'd say during family dinners. "She should be out having fun." Vera would just smile and say, "I am having fun, Uncle Knox. I'm learning how ordinary people accomplish impossible things when they refuse to give up." After graduating college with a degree in library science, she surprised everyone by taking a position at the Columbus Public Library. For 2 years, she organized collections, helped patrons find information, and seemed perfectly content with her quiet life. But I noticed things others missed. She'd arranged her work schedule to have maximum time for training. She'd transformed our garage into what looked like a military fitness center, and she never stopped studying strategy. The day she announced her military plans, the family gathered for what became known as the intervention dinner. Everyone had opinions about why this was a terrible idea. She was too small, too smart for military life, too valuable in her civilian career. Vera listened to every concern with patience, then stood up and said something that still gives me chills. "I appreciate everyone's worry, but I've been preparing my whole life for this moment. You've all been watching me get ready. You just didn't realize what I was getting ready for." That night, as the family argued about her decision, I realized something profound. We'd been so focused on protecting Vera from the world that we'd never considered she might be preparing to protect the world from threats we couldn't even imagine. The real conflict started 3 months after Vera's military announcement, when she received a letter that changed everything. It arrived on a Tuesday morning, official government seal and all, marked confidential recruitment correspondence. Vera read it twice before calling me at work, her voice tight with something between excitement and terror. "Dad, they want me for something called the Joint Special Operations Assessment Program. It's invitation only, and apparently someone recommended me based on my application profile." I could hear her pacing as she talked, a habit she'd had since childhood when processing big decisions. "The thing is, Dad, this isn't regular military training. This is direct evaluation for elite special operations roles. They're bringing in candidates from Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, Delta Force, and a handful of civilians with exceptional profiles." My stomach dropped. "Vera, are you sure about this? These guys have been training for warfare their entire adult lives." "That's exactly why I have to do it," she said, her voice gaining strength. "If I can't compete with the best, then I don't belong in special operations at all." The assessment was scheduled for Fort Braxton, a facility I'd never heard of but Vera explained was used for classified military evaluations. She had 2 weeks to prepare, and suddenly our quiet house became a training camp. Vera transformed her routine into something that would have impressed professional athletes. 5 a.m. runs became 4 a.m. runs. Her evening workouts extended past midnight. She studied tactical manuals like her life depended on memorizing every detail. Diane started worrying openly. "She's pushing herself too hard. Look at her, she's lost weight she can't afford to lose." But when I watched Vera train, I saw something different. She wasn't just preparing physically, she was preparing mentally for a level of competition that would break most people before they even started. She was visualizing scenarios, practicing under artificial stress conditions she created for herself, turning our backyard into a laboratory for excellence. The night before she left, the family gathered for what we thought might be our last normal dinner together. My brother Knox had driven down from Cleveland, still convinced this was a mistake. "Vera, it's not too late to change your mind. Nobody would think less of you for staying with your library job." Vera set down her fork and looked around the table at all of us. "Uncle Knox, what if I told you that every single day for the past 10 years I've been building towards something bigger than myself? What if I told you that all those hours in the garage, all those books about military strategy, all that training you thought was just a hobby, was actually me preparing for the most important test of my life?" The table went quiet. Knox started to respond, but Vera held up her hand. "Tomorrow, I find out if I've been preparing hard enough. But whether I succeed or fail, I need to know I gave everything I had to something that matters." That night, none of us slept well, knowing Vera was about to face challenges that would either prove her extraordinary or break her completely. The call came at 9:47 p.m. on Vera's second night at Fort Braxton. I was reading in bed when my phone buzzed with her number, and something in the way it rang made me answer immediately. "Dad, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without trying to talk me out of anything." Her voice was different, calmer than I'd heard it in weeks, but with an edge that made me sit up straight. Today was orientation and initial assessments. There are 12 candidates total. 11 men won me. 8 of them are active Navy SEALs with combat experience. 2 are Army Rangers who've served multiple overseas deployments. 1 is a Marine Force recon operator who looks like he could bench press a car. I could hear other voices in the background, the sounds of a military facility winding down for the night. And then there's me, the librarian from Ohio who everyone keeps staring at like I'm lost and looking for the gift shop. "How are you handling it?" I asked, though I already suspected I knew. "That's what I need to tell you." During today's briefing, I overheard 2 of the SEALs talking about me. One said, "Why is there a college girl here? Someone's daughter get confused on career day?" And the other one laughed and said I'd probably wash out before lunch tomorrow. My protective instincts kicked in immediately. "Vera, you don't have to prove anything to those guys." "Dad, stop. Listen to what I'm telling you." Her voice got stronger. "For my entire life, I've been holding back. In school, I never raised my hand even when I knew answers other kids couldn't figure out. In college, I never pushed myself to the front of group projects even when I had the best ideas. At work, I've been content being the quiet one who gets things done behind the scenes." She paused, and I could hear her breathing change, like she was making a decision in real time. Tomorrow starts the real assessment. Obstacle courses, tactical problem solving, combat scenarios, psychological evaluations under extreme stress. Everything I've been preparing for my entire life comes down to the next 72 hours. "What are you going to do?" "I'm done hiding, Dad. I'm done being smaller than I actually am because it makes other people comfortable. Tomorrow they're going to see what I'm really capable of." The certainty in her voice was something I'd never heard before, not even during her most determined training sessions. "I called you because I needed to say this out loud to someone who's watched me grow up. I've been building toward this moment since I was 12 years old, doing pull-ups in our garage. Every book I read, every hour I trained, every time I pushed myself past what felt possible, it was all preparing me for tomorrow." She took a deep breath. "Dad, I'm not just going to compete with these guys. I'm going to show them what excellence actually looks like." When she hung up, I knew our quiet librarian was about to become something the military had never seen before. The call that changed everything came at 6:15 p.m. on the final day of assessment. But it wasn't from Vera. It was from Colonel Hayes himself. "Mr. Chen, this is Colonel William Hayes, Program Director for the Joint Special Operations Assessment. I'm calling about your daughter." My heart stopped. In that split second, every worst-case scenario flashed through my mind. "Sir, is she hurt? What happened?" "Mr. Chen, in 30 years of military service, I have never witnessed anything like what your daughter accomplished today." The relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. But his tone told me there was much more to this story. The final assessment consisted of 5 integrated challenges designed to break even our most elite operators. We've had seasoned SEALs wash out on day 1. We've seen Rangers with multiple combat deployments crack under the psychological pressure. Colonel Hayes paused, and I could hear papers rustling in the background. "Your daughter didn't just pass every challenge. Mr. Chen. She redefined what we thought was possible. He started with the obstacle course. The existing record, held by a SEAL who'd completed it in 6 minutes and 43 seconds, had stood for 2 years. Vera finished in 6 minutes and 11 seconds, moving through obstacles with a fluidity that made it look effortless. But that wasn't the remarkable part. Colonel Hayes continued. During the tactical scenario, we presented the candidates with a hostage rescue simulation that typically takes our best operators 12 to 15 minutes to solve. Most approach it as a brute force problem. Vera had studied the scenario for 3 minutes, then executed a solution none of the experienced operators had even considered. She identified a weakness in the simulated enemy position that eliminated 2/3 of the tactical challenges, completing the rescue in 8 minutes with 0 simulated casualties. The psychological evaluation was where she truly distinguished herself. We subject candidates to extreme stress conditions while they solve complex problems. Most elite operators maintain about 60% of their normal cognitive function under that level of pressure. Vera had maintained 97% cognitive function while solving problems faster than she had during the baseline testing with no pressure at all. But the moment that will stay with me forever was the final endurance challenge. 12 hours of continuous physical and mental demands designed to find each candidate's breaking point. 11 of the 12 candidates hit their wall between hour 8 and hour 10. They fought through it because they're warriors. But you could see the moment when their bodies and minds said, enough. Colonel Hayes' voice changed, taking on an almost reverent quality. Your daughter never hit a wall, Mr. Chen. At hour 12, when we called the exercise complete, she looked at me and asked if we were continuing with additional phases. She wasn't just unbroken, she was ready for more. He cleared his throat. Sir, I need you to understand something. Vera didn't just outperform Navy SEALs today. She performed at a level that's going to force us to redesign our entire assessment program. We've never seen natural capability combined with that level of preparation and mental toughness. What happens now? I managed to ask. Now, Mr. Chen, your daughter gets to choose her own assignment. Any unit, any mission. They'll be competing for her. 3 months after that phone call from Colonel Hayes, Vera came home for the first time since her assignment began. She couldn't tell us much about her new position, just that it involved strategic operations coordination at a facility whose location she wasn't permitted to discuss. But the change in her was unmistakable. Gone was any trace of the quiet uncertainty she'd carried her whole life. Vera moved with the confidence of someone who had finally discovered exactly who she was meant to be. During dinner, she shared what details she could about her new role, and it became clear that the military hadn't just given her a job. They'd built an entire position around her unique capabilities. They're having me design training protocols based on my assessment performance, she told us, cutting into Diane's famous pot roast. Turns out some of the approaches I used were so different from standard military thinking that they want to incorporate them into existing programs. But the real revelation came when Colonel Hayes called me directly 2 weeks later. He wanted to share something that, as he put it, needed to be said by someone who witnessed it firsthand. Mr. Chen, I've been thinking about your daughter's performance for months now, and I finally understand what made it so remarkable. It wasn't just that she outperformed elite operators, it was how she did it. He explained that most successful candidates succeed through superior physical conditioning, mental toughness, or tactical knowledge. Vera had succeeded through something entirely different. She had approached every challenge as if the solution already existed, and she just needed to find it. Every other candidate, including seasoned SEALs, approached obstacles as things to be overcome through force or endurance. Your daughter approached them as puzzles to be solved through intelligence and preparation. That's not something we can teach. That's how someone thinks when they've been preparing their entire life for a moment they couldn't even describe. The lesson hit me like lightning during that conversation. We spend so much time trying to fit people into categories we understand that we miss the extraordinary happening right in front of us. For years we'd seen Vera as the quiet, bookish daughter who was too intense for her own good. We'd worried about her obsessive training and her fascination with military strategy. What we'd missed was watching someone build themselves into something the world had never seen before. Now, whenever someone tells me their child is too focused or too different, I think about that quiet librarian who made a colonel question 30 years of military experience. I think about how she spent decades preparing for a test she didn't even know existed, driven by an internal compass pointing toward something bigger than herself. The real victory wasn't Vera beating the Navy SEALs. The real victory was watching her finally become the person she'd always been inside, once she found a challenge worthy of everything she'd built herself into. Sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones who've been quietly preparing while everyone else was busy making noise about more ordinary things.